Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I want to welcome you to the Nobody Entertainment review of Ghost of Tsushima. I am Nobody James Black. This game specifically was released last month. I've been playing it over the course of the last 4 or so weeks. And to give a little bit of a backstory, Ghost of Tsushima is a game set in the island of Tsushima off of Japan. You play as Jin Sakai, which is a samurai who was raised by his uncle, and his goal basically is to retake an island back after a Mongol invasion. They came through, they took over the island, they captured your uncle, and they killed a lot of your friends and your cohorts, I guess I would say. So therein lies the problem. So you, as Jin Sakai, are a samurai, and your goal is to take back the island by possibly delving in a little bit into some dishonorable and little, I guess, negative ways of doing so. So you basically become an assassin. You become a little bit of a sneaky scoundrel that we don't really expect to see from a samurai. So with that being said, I'm going to take this time to delve in a little bit deeper by doing this for the Nobody Entertainment Network. Usually you have my friend John with me, but this time I'm going to go it alone because he doesn't typically play the PlayStation exclusives. So with that being said, I'm going to dive right in. So we're going to start with the basics, and I'm kind of just winging it. I don't have a script or anything crazy like that, so I'm going to go as far and as deep as I can and try to stay as on topic. If you guys have watched any of our episodes, you could definitely check them out at nobodyentertainment.com, which will just take you straight to YouTube, and you'll see some of our conversations. We just recently recorded a Squawk Squad with our friend Stephen Holland and, of course, John and myself, where we talked about the upcoming consoles. But today specifically, I'm going to talk about Ghost of Tsushima. So, as I already did, brief introduction, but what you need to understand about Ghost of Tsushima is it is very much a third-person action game with a story. So if you were to think about the Assassin's Creed games, that's third-person action games, it's going to be a lot more goal-oriented, checkbox, task-oriented, and leveling up, building your character, and so on and so forth. This game specifically is a lot more focused on the story. From the introduction of the Mongol invasion, you have the Khan coming in and doing some pretty shifty maneuvers to try to establish his dominance and kind of show you that he's going to be trying to take over your island. And if you do your best, you can keep that from happening. I am going to go into probably some light spoilers. I can't specifically guarantee that I won't touch on those, so keep that in mind. This is going to be your spoiler alert, so keep that in mind moving forward. But I'm going to try my best not to spoil the major story beats. So, with that being said, this is just from memory, but you play as Jin Sakai. You start out, like I said previously, as an honorable samurai working with your uncle. Basically, he's taken you on as a son of sorts. Basically, over the course of the story, you find out that he is actually wanting to adopt you formally as his son, because your parents passed away at a very young age, and he raised you as an honorable samurai, and he leads the samurai warriors in the island of Tsushima. The island itself is broken up into three parts, and that progresses accordingly with the three acts of the story. So basically, in the first act, you're introduced to the conflict, which is the Mongol invasion, and then you're introduced to your growth into the assassin and the ghost, specifically the ghost path as opposed to the samurai. So your uncle, being a samurai, wants you to maintain that path, come into his world, and kind of follow that path along the way. But you realize pretty early on that those methods are not quite so satisfactory in actually reclaiming the island, because the Mongol invaders are a pretty aggressive and underhanded bunch of scoundrels. So they're going to come in and they're going to be a little backhanded, pretty dastardly, and kind of take things the way that they would like to take them. So you build from there. You meet a lot of interesting characters along the way, specifically an archer, basically a grandmother that's lost her family. You meet a person whose family has been destroyed along the way, and then they were taken on by a slaver essentially, and some pretty nasty things happened to them. Again, I won't go into too many of the details. Another character that you meet is a uh, sake handler, so he's basically panhandling his sake and things of the sort. So you're going to help them along your path, and they're going to come to aid you in your attempt to take back Tsushima along the way. So story-wise, I'm going to give this game just a far and away. I guess I'm just going to say that it's amazing in the way that they handle it, because the main missions consist of roughly, and I'm ballparking it here, roughly 18 missions from beginning to end. But there are side missions that you're going to tackle along the way. Now, those characters that I previously mentioned, the grandmother, the archer, um, the sake dealer, and the person whose family was taken out, um, you can get as involved as you would like to in those missions, because you have independent side missions along with them to kind of delve into their backstories, their details, and their information along the way. Or you can go in and they just kind of come in and they aid you on the mission as you progress through the storyline. Uh, what I will say is the way I played the game is probably the incorrect way, and I wouldn't encourage it, because I found personally the investment and the emotional connections in the main storyline were far, far, far greater than what you could pick up along the way if you were doing the side missions. So let's get into, for just a second, the entire world. So again, the island itself is broken up into three separate parts. In your starting position, the lower level of the island, you're clearing it out and trying to clear the fog of war, as you probably have seen in a lot of other games, third person action games like Assassin's Creed. So you start out not knowing where you're going, not knowing what you're doing, but you're finding little question marks that pop up along your exploration. You clear out Mongol camps, you can go to different hot springs that will increase your health, you can find little pieces of armor, different uh, headwear, different sword sheaths, and things of that sort to try to again build up your armor and your sets. With that being said, I think that the sense of exploration is fantastic. As you go from mission to mission, you're going to find these little question marks that pop up and make you just abundantly interested, and you're just going to be trying to build your character up from scratch. Um, and I think that's one of the things that this game specifically excels at exponentially, is the ability to make you want to start out from nothing and just build up to just the most overpowered character that you possibly can be. On that first section of the island, I did find myself aggressively overpowered. By the end of it, I fell into the camp at the beginning where this game was just incredibly easy, which, with that being said, again, you're going through the path of the samurai, which they're very honorable. They approach their enemies from the front. They're going to have a straight up sword fight using no trickery, no scams, no assassinry, nothing like that, if that's even a word. Um, but you're going to fight your enemies head on. And there's a way that they approach that is you're going to walk into a camp, and anytime you approach an enemy, it pops up a little bar at the bottom that says standoff. And in order to interact with that standoff, is you hit up on the D-pad, and then you're going to face those enemies head on. At the very beginning, you can have one chance to fight the enemy head on, and that's one particular enemy who they're going to walk up to you, you're going to walk up to them, and if you release the triangle button at the right time, you're going to kill them in one swipe. Um, if they hit you, it takes you down to minimum health, to the point where you get hit one more time, you're going to die. As you build that particular characteristic up, you're going to get to the point where you can take out, I think it's maxed out at 6 different characters at a time. So you can hold the triangle, they swipe at you. If you hit it at the right time, you're going to release, you're going to swipe them, kill them, turn to the next one that's attacking you, swipe at them, kill them, turn to the next one, swipe them, kill them, and so on and so forth. With that being said, as you progress through the game, that particular tactic gets very increasingly difficult. They're going to attack you at different times in different ways, and it does become very, very difficult by the end. So again, that's the honorable way of approaching uh, these these fights. So with that being said, you move up your ladder towards being the ghost, so you can skip completely the standoff segment, and you can go straight into the camps, and you can kind of wipe them out one by one in a more assassin-like manner. So you could just slit a throat from behind, you can drop some smoke and assassinate them, you can even throw specific bombs that will attach to them, and then sticky bombs, and they'll explode and kill them, or at least set them back so that way they can't attack you right away. And again, how you approach these camps is completely up to you. You can go at honorable. You can go at it from the completely honorable way, and you can attack them head on, or you can sneak in and take them all out one by one. So that part of it, I think, is definitely the number one way that this game excels, because you are forced to stay in the honorable path from the very, very beginning. And then you work your way up, essentially. You become more powerful, more strong, you become more challenging, or the game becomes um, more difficult. And you kind of find yourself kind of pilfering off into the trenches and kind of taking these guys out one by one in the dishonorable way based on what your uncle thinks. So once you get up into the second section of the island, you're going to be approached by a segment of warriors called the Straw Hats, and they have a little bit more HP. They're going to attack you in more difficult in different ways, and I think they're just a trickier enemy across the board. Enemy variety in this game is fantastic because you have the archers, you have, like I said previously, the straw hats, you have the original Mongols, which they're just going to attack you pretty much one on one. They're going to come at you with swords, they're going to come at you with their shields, and you have four different stances that you can fight these guys with, which is number one, like I said, sword, number two, shield, number three, you have the lancers, and then number four, you have the brutes. And again, you change up your stances on the fly. You don't want to try to stick with one in particular, or it will get you shut down very, very quickly. Along with this video, you'll obviously see some gameplay, and I've got a couple of missions saved in there, and then a couple bits of just general exploration. But I think the game specifically is absolutely fantastic. I think it does a phenomenal job of keeping the story just as close to the chest as the exploration. Again, to touch on the way I played it wrong, is I would clear out the entirety of the section of the island first, and then I would move on to the story content. I found myself mildly disassociated with the storyline and almost to the point of bored when it came to approaching the side missions, because I wasn't properly vested in the storyline at that point. And I was more focused on building myself up and becoming the strongest character that I could. But with the side uh, tasks and the upgrades that you can find along the way, I think they're absolutely fantastic. Um, they build you up appropriately, and again, by the end of section one, I was a total badass that could take on anyone, and I had no problems at all. By the end of section two, again, I was a total badass, and I was able to take on anyone with no problems at all. By the end of section three, though, I think that they ramp up the difficulty. The archers now have poison darts. The some of the Mongols have swords that they engulf in flames, and it does more damage or sets you afire, so that way you have to dodge or roll to put it out. And that does create a little bit of a difficulty and another set of problems that you have to interact with. There's a couple of twists and turns throughout the story that keeps you guessing and makes it a little bit more interesting. It's not quite so straightforward, but I will say that it doesn't do anything too insanely new for this genre, but it does keep it a little different and varied up until the end. I think it does give you finally a piece of choice that you can delve into, and you can kind of let your mind wonder where they're going to go in the future. I I really just genuinely think this game is a fantastic piece of entertainment. At first, I started out not completely bought in. I think it's a little bit of a slower game from the get-go, and then once you're approaching these enemy outposts with the limited capabilities and specifically the samurai style of thinking, it can be a little formulaic, a little generic. But as you, again, as you ascend the ranks of being a ghost, therefore descending into the ranks of being an assassin and no longer a samurai, um, the options really open up. It becomes a lot more tactical and a lot more, frankly, fun. You're becoming more of a superhero, I guess I would say. You have a tendency to fight a little bit more dastardly, a little bit more backhandedly, but you can hide and skulk through some of the environments and just really make yourself known as the ghost of Tsushima. And again, the ending of the game really kind of comes to a head that is uh, interesting. I think it opens a lot of doors for the future, and I think it's going to leave a lot of exciting opportunities for where Sucker Punch wants to take this. I personally am a huge fan of the Sucker Punch series. I'm sorry, series of games. I would say Infamous 1, 2, and even um, what is Second Light? Second Son. So Infamous Second Son is a fantastic piece of work. I believe I platinumed all three of those games, and I'm continuing that tradition of platinuming Ghost of Tsushima. I have finished that completely, so I've collected all of the requirements for that platinum specifically, which is saying something because out of the 10 platinums that I have, I think it's 4 of them are the Sucker Punch games. So I have a lot of affinity for the Sucker Punch series of games, and I think that they do a great job, and they continue that here. Sly Cooper, I never really got into. That was a little bit, I guess, I'm a little, I don't know, I felt like I was a little too old for that series, but maybe I'm just wrong about that. Maybe it's great. I'm not 100%. Um, as per the usual, on nobodyentertainment.com, we give a rating based off of, essentially it's a 5-star rating, but we call it garbage, blank, because we haven't come up with that second option, good, great, and gaga. And I'm going to say in this instance, realistically, it's probably a great game, but considering it falls into the wheelhouse of exactly what I was looking for, it hit me at the right moment. It was fun, it was energetic, it was exciting, and I had a really great time with it. I'm going to say I'm gaga for this game, although I will say once I completed the platinum, I did delete it off of my PlayStation 4, and I find little to no reason to return to it at this moment. Um, I think they could potentially add some upgrades and some options along the way, but me personally, I'm not a big DLC kind of person, so I'm going to stick with what I know, and I'm probably going to move forward onto some other games. But at the moment, I'm going to stick with the idea that I'm gaga over this game. I think it was a fantastic time. It hits you in the emotional beats where it needs to. It keeps you coming back to upgrade, and realistically, I think it's probably just a good dabble game where you're just going to jump in, play it for 2 to 3 hours a day, and then kind of move on from there. I really can't think of anything else that I want to say about this game, but just know that I strongly encourage it. It's easily one of the top 10 PlayStation 4 exclusives out there, um, and I hope Sucker Punch keeps bringing them right to the forefront. I wouldn't mind seeing them go a different direction. I think this kind of ties up pretty nicely, and I would like to see something new and completely different from them. But I guess we'll have to kind of sit back, wait, and relax and see where they go from here because it's going to be a long time till we get another Sucker Punch game. This game took like 4 to 5 years for them to put together and get out. So I guess we'll just, like I said, have to wait and see. So with that being said, I want to thank you so much for joining me on the Nobody Entertainment review of Ghost of Tsushima. I'm Nobody Jaymes. Be sure to check out our other videos, and we will be happy to keep pushing them out in the future. Thanks, guys, and have a good day.